In this video, we are going to do a basic overview of the skeleton, so let's get started. I'd like to preface this video by saying that this is not going to be a very comprehensive or overly detailed explanation of the human body. There are a ton of excellent, much more expertly crafted videos on anatomy by people who really know their stuff, and I encourage you to look into those resources if you're looking for more detailed information. I will just be covering the absolute essentials that artists should know as a fundamental precursor to what we'll be drawing later. If you've never learned anatomy before, it's probably going to feel like a lot of information, which is totally okay. This stuff takes a while to wrap your head around, and it will probably be an ongoing process as you continue to learn and improve. I also want to go over some anatomical terms that you might hear pretty frequently as we move forward. We have superior, which is in the direction of the upper body, inferior, which means in the direction of the lower body, anterior, meaning the front, posterior, meaning the back, medial, meaning towards the center or the midline of the body, and lateral towards the outside of the body. So let's start with the skull. The skull will have three separate things that I wanted to point out in this video: the cranium, the zygomatic arch, and the mandible. The shape of the skull is primarily created through the shapes of the cranium and mandible, and for me, I've always envisioned the skull as kind of a whistle. Using the whistle shape as a base for any drawing you do of the head will help you maintain the internal infrastructure of the skull itself. In addition to the cranium and mandible, I will also be pointing out the zygomatic arch. The arch itself can be found on the zygomatic bone, and together they're an important landmark when it comes to defining key features on the face, such as the cheekbones and the orbital socket of the eye. Lastly, I want to talk about the cervical vertebrae, which starts at the base of the skull. This collection of vertebrae starts our spine and is also the primary point of connection for a lot of the muscles in the neck. So now that we've covered the head, let's talk about the torso. The clavicle is an especially important bone. It not only serves as a connection point for the neck muscles, but also for the muscles in the torso and shoulders. It also articulates with the acromion process, which is an offshoot that derives itself from the spine of the scapula. There's also the coracoid process, which, along with the acromion process, helps stabilize the arm and provide connection points for a lot of the muscles in the front of the torso. The clavicle itself connects to the rest of the rib cage through a sternoclavicular joint with the manubrium, which is directly connected to the sternum. The clavicle, manubrium, and sternum serve as the primary origin point for a lot of the muscles in the upper body, while the rib cage serves as the primary infrastructure for a lot of the muscles in the upper torso. Now, let's talk about arms. There is one primary bone which constitutes the upper arm, and that is the humerus. For the lower arm, we have the ulna, which is its main source of structure, and the radius, which allows the forearm to rotate back and forth. The radius originates on the outer edge of the elbow and rotates inward towards the thumb. Likewise, the ulna is connected to the interior side of the humerus and connects outward towards the pinky. From there you have the carpals, which are a bundle of bones at the base of the wrist, the metacarpals, which serves as the primary infrastructure for your palm, and the phalanges, which are your finger bones. There are a lot of muscles on the arms, and that means that there are also a lot of ridges and nubs on the bones themselves for muscles to connect to. So now let's move on to the rest of the body. We have the thoracic vertebrae, which makes up the bulk of the spine. It helps support the rib cage and maintain the posture of the body itself. Where the thoracic vertebrae ends is where the lumbar vertebrae begins. This is the tail end of the spine and helps connect the upper body with the lower body through the pelvis. The primary shape is defined through the pelvic girdle and the two pelvic wings. These wings can be broken down into a couple different sections, such as the iliac crest, the anterior superior iliac spine, and the anterior inferior iliac spine. These pieces of the pelvic wings are primary points of connection between the upper torso muscles and the lower body. At the back of the pelvis is the sacrum, which helps strengthen and stabilizes the overall structure of the pelvis. At the bottom of the sacrum is the coccyx, which I just like pointing out because I think it's fun that we possibly had a tail when we were an embryo, and that is what remains of that vestigial vertebra. So yeah, there you go. At the bottom of the pelvis, you'll find the pubic symphysis, which is a joint between the left and right pubic bones. There isn't really a function that is necessarily applicable for us, but it is a nice landmark for the pelvis itself. Next to the pubic symphysis, you'll find the pelvic arches, or the ischium, and these help create kind of the understructure of the pelvis, and as part of the hip joints, help with mobility, and are also the connection points for several muscles within the inner thigh. From the pelvis, we're moving on to the leg bones. First up is the femur, which provides the primary support for the thighs and the upper legs. At the top of the femur, you'll find the great trochanter, which serves as a point of attachment and origin for a lot of muscles in the thighs and the gluteus region. Moving downward, we've got the patella, which is the floating kneecap bone, which tends to find itself above the tibia, which is the primary structural bone for the lower legs. On the outer side of the tibia is the fibula, which helps create the ankle joint at the base of the foot. We have the calcaneus as the heel bone, and then we have a very familiar pattern of tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges making up the bones of the feet. So today we looked at the skeletal system, which is the base understructure when drawing the human body. It's important to keep these parts in mind as we move forward, as some bones serve as important attachment or insertion points for many of the muscles we'll see. For some, this may be completely new information. For others, it could be a review from either your own anatomy class or just knowledge you had prior. So feel free to skip the assignment if you don't feel like it's applicable or helpful for you. Otherwise, I think it's really helpful to know the names of these various building blocks for the body, as it can help solve, mitigate, and prepare you for problems down the line, especially if you're someone interested in drawing from imagination. For your mission, I want you to find a full body reference of a person, draw the bones, and label the ones we've mentioned today. I encourage you to do additional research in order to accurately practice the proportion, form, and arrangement of the skeleton. Try drawing bodies in unorthodox perspectives and poses to really test your understanding. In the next video, we'll be embarking on a really, truly difficult task of covering the muscles in the human body, so I'll see you there whenever you're ready.